Okay, so the last part of the section is on negative exponents. Okay, so it's still 6.1. But once we finish this, tomorrow we'll review everything we've done this week, and then our first test for the term will be on Friday. All right, let's take a look at this. Let me see. I don't think I put this on your guided notes, so this is something we're just going to look at together. I want to see if we can figure out what happens when we get negative exponents by looking at a pattern. Okay, so let's start with 2 cubed. What do you get if you do 2 times 2 times 2?
8.
Okay, you get 8. All right, how about 2 squared?
4.
2 to the second power, that's 2 times 2 is 4. How about 2 to the first power?
2.
It's 2. So now let's look at the pattern that we did to get from one to the next, and then we're going to continue that pattern to keep going, even if we don't know what's supposed to happen with negatives. The pattern will show us. How did we get from 8 to 4?
By getting rid of one of the numbers in the first line. 2. Subtracting 2. Yeah, subtracting 2. Like you go by them. Oh wait, no. Wouldn't it be 4?
So, all right, how do we get from 4 to 2? Has to be the same way we got from 8 to 4.
No, but 8
Subtracting by 4.
No, but no, because 4 minus 2 gets 2 is minus
Divided by 2.
Yeah. Oh, what are we divided by 2?
We divide by 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my god, that makes so much sense.
Okay, so to get from 8 to 4, we divided by 2. How did we get from 4 to 2?
By 2.
We divide by 2.
So now we're probably going to multiply.
So how do you think we're going to get from this to whatever we're going to put up here?
Divide by 2.
We're going to divide by 2. So what do you get if you take 2 and divide by 2?
1.
1. So that shows us anything that we raise to the 0 power is always going to be 1. That's why when you raise to the 0, you get a 1, because it has to follow this pattern. All right, how do you think we're going to get from 2 to the 0 to 2 to the negative 1?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2. So now what do you get if you take 1 and divide by 2?
0.5.
0.5, or how about as a fraction?
1/2.
1/2. Where did the 2 end up this time?
Underneath the 1.
Underneath the 1. It ended up in the bottom of a fraction. And what kind of exponent did we have originally?
Positive.
No, not on that one.
Whole number.
No, it's not a whole number. What was the problem that we had originally on that one?
2 to the power.
2 to the... What was the power?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. What kind of number is negative 1? It's the exponent, but it's an exponent that's a... What kind? It's a negative exponent. So the 2 ended up in the bottom, and we had a negative exponent. All right? How do you think we're going to get from the one we're at now to the next one above it? We're going to divide by 2. So what do you get if you take a half and then you divide that by 2?
4.
You get a fourth. Okay, you get 1 to the second power, which is 1/4. So again, where did the 2 end up this time? In the bottom. And what kind of exponent did we start with?
Negative.
Negative. So what's the connection here? When you see a negative exponent, where does it end up?
In the bottom.
It ends up in the bottom. Okay. So negative exponents are going to end up in the bottom of a fraction. All right? At least ones like this. Okay, any question on that? So what if I had something like this? How do you think I would write that one? So it doesn't have a negative exponent. Yeah?
You go up to like a normal, like you instead of -2, it would be like positive 1 or 2, and then you do that, and then you do divide it back to the problem that you're supposed to be doing, like that one.
All right, so what would go, like if I wanted to put a box right here, what would go exactly inside that box?
So you would do 5 squared to 5 to the power of 2.
Yeah, it would be 5 to the power of 2, but where would the 5 to the power of 2 be? On the bottom, yes. Yep. It would be on the bottom. How about if I had 7 to the -3rd? How do you think I would write that one? So it doesn't have a negative exponent.
1 over 7 to the power of 3.
Great. 1 over 7 to the power of 3. So if you don't have a number as a fraction, how can you think of it as a fraction? Like these two that are on the left. You could always put what number in the bottom?
1.
Yeah, could always put a 1. No need to. But notice we started with a negative exponent in the top. And to make it positive, it ended up where? In the bottom. Started with a negative exponent in the top. And to make it positive, it ended up in the bottom. What do you think would happen if I had something like this? I have a negative exponent, but it's in the bottom. Where do you think it would end up this time to make it positive? It would end up in the top. Exactly like that. So the key is anytime you have a negative exponent, if you want to make it positive, you move it to the other part of the fraction. Okay, what's the other part? Well, it depends where it is originally. If it's negative and it's in the top, you put it in the bottom. If it's negative and it's in the bottom, we put it in the top. So we just move it to the other part of the fraction. And that's basically all we're going to be doing today. Okay, we're going to try to, if we have negative exponents, we're going to get rid of the negative by fixing it, and then we can do all the rules we already know. All right, so this is the first thing that's on your guided notes. And it says, thus we can see, and then the rest you have to write down. If you take anything and raise it to the 0 power, okay, I'm kind of focusing on this right here. If you take a number and raise it to the 0 power, you will always get 1. The is 1 isn't underlined, but you need to write that down. Okay, so if I go on the calculator and I type in, let's say, 3 to the 0 power, when I hit enter, according to what I have written right there, what am I going to get?
3.
So read that over.
1.
Any number raised to the 0 power is 1. So 3 to the 0 power, 1. How about 8 to the 0 power? 1. How about -7 to the 0 power? 1. Well, I didn't use parentheses. I told you you should always do that. -7 to the 0 power, 1. If you have a negative number, you got to put it in the parentheses. What about if I did 2.6 to the 0 power? 1. Anything that's not 0 raised to the 0 power is 1. So what do you think would happen if I tried to do 0 then? What do you think 0 to the 0 power would be?
1.
Well, it says the base can be anything that's not a 0. This time I'm letting it be a 0. So we're not going to get a 1 this time. Anyone have another thought what we might get? 0? So this one's kind of a weird one. You can't do that. You can't take 0 and raise it to the 0 power. It doesn't work. It's undefined. It's a negative. There's no answer. But you can take anything other than 0. What if I took pi and raised it to the 0 power? What would I get?
1.
1. That's a number. Anything to the 0 power is 1, except 0 to the 0. Can't do that. All right. Any questions on that? That's what I just told you. 0 to the 0, can't do it. All right. Let's try to simplify a few of these. Okay. 4 to the, this is example 1A on your guided notes. What's 4 to the 0 power?
4 or 1?
1. All right. How about m to the 0 power?
1.
And we'll assume m is not the number 0, because if it was 0, you couldn't do it. So what is m to the 0 power? 1. Yep. How about, because we have a lot of space in that box, let's do this one. 2x to the 0 power.
1.
Again, assuming x is not 0, because you can't do that. What's 2x to the 0 power?
1.
1. Yeah. Okay. Anything to the 0 power, doesn't matter what's inside the parentheses here, as long as it's not 0, is 1. Okay, so the next part, where it says negative exponents. We already kind of went through what we need to do, but let's write it down. So if you have a base and it has a negative exponent, the first thing we need to do in the problem is get rid of that negative exponent. And the way you get rid of it is you move it to the opposite place in the fraction. So if you have a negative number in the top, negative exponent in the top, you need to move it to the bottom. If you have something with a negative exponent in the bottom, you move it to the top. Okay, so that's the only new thing for today. So I'm going to show you a few examples, and I want to explain to you what you're allowed to move and what you're not allowed to move. Okay. Now, what if you have something that's not a fraction, but we need to make it a fraction? What can we always put for a number in the bottom?
1.
Right. That's what this is saying. If you have something that has a negative exponent, like this, x to the negative third, and you want to fix that, you might say, well, it's not a fraction, so how do I move it? Well, you can make it a fraction by going like that. And now, since it's a negative exponent and it's in the top, you would move it to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few examples of how this moving works. And in the last bullet, I think you guys already have written down all the rules that we learned over the last 2 days still apply. You have that right above example 2A. Does everybody have that written down? All right, so let's look at a few things together before we do examples 2, 3, and 4. Let's look at something like this. That's a negative exponent. Okay, we don't want to have it. Is it a fraction? No, it's not a fraction. What can I do here to make that a fraction?
Put a 1 underneath.
Yep, you can put a 1 underneath. Okay, so I got a 1 underneath. Now, where is the negative exponent now that we put a 1 underneath? Is it in the top or in the bottom? It's in the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on this. That x and negative 2 are stuck together. You can't separate them. Where does that entire thing have to move to turn into a positive exponent? Right, that entire thing is going to go in the bottom. That's not going to leave you with anything in the top. Well, you need to put something there. So when there's nothing left in the top, what do you think we're going to put? We put a 1. Okay. What was already in the bottom before we move anything?
1.
There was a 1, so we're going to put that. We're going to put a multiplication sign. And what are we putting now in the bottom with it?
X to the power of negative 2.
And when we move it to the bottom, it's going to become x to the second power, positive 2. Anytime something with an exponent passes through this line right here, it changes from negative to positive. And what's 1 times x squared?
X squared.
Just x squared. Yep. So that's how you do one like that. All right, let's look at this one. Negative 2, or actually no, let's do it like this. 2y to the negative 3. Okay. Is that a fraction the way it's written?
Yes.
Yeah, it's already a fraction. So now, does it have a negative exponent?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what has the negative exponent on it?
The y.
The y. Don't worry about the 2. The 2 is fine. What we're concerned about is that. The 2 doesn't go anywhere. It's going to stay right where it is. Where is this y to the negative 3 going to go?
To the bottom.
It's going to go to the bottom. When it moves to the bottom, what's still in the top?
2.
Still have a 2. Okay. Anything else in the top?
No.
No. The 2 is the only thing left in the top. Okay. So what was in the bottom to start? We had a 4 times. And now when this moves to the bottom, what is it going to turn into?
Y to the power of 3.
Y to the power of 3. So it's 2 over 4y cubed. Yeah, that's okay. Like that's the idea for that one. We'll talk more about reducing fractions later, but I just want you to understand about moving the negative. Okay, what if you had something like negative 5y squared? Okay, is it a fraction? No, we could make it one by doing what? We could put a 1 under it. But are there any negative exponents in that problem? No, that's fine. We don't care about negative numbers in the front. The big numbers can be negative all day. Those are fine. We just don't want to have a negative in the exponent. So this problem is perfectly fine the way it is. Nothing you need to do. Okay, now it's fine. What if we had 3 over 2x to the negative 5? Is that a fraction?
Yes.
Yep. Does it have a negative exponent?
Yes.
Okay, then we need to fix it. What has the negative exponent on it?
X.
Just the x. The 2 doesn't have a negative exponent. In fact, if you want to write it, the 2 has an exponent of 1. So don't touch the 2. Where is this x to the negative 5 going to go?
To the top.
It's going to go to the top. Okay, so was there anything already in the top before we started the problem?
Yes.
Yep, what was there?
3.
Yeah, so we're going to leave the 3. That's fine. And then what's going to come up and be with the 3?
X to the power of 5.
Right, and when it comes up, it's going to cross the division line. The negative exponent goes away. Was there anything in the bottom that we need to write down?
2.
Just the 2. Yep. So that's the idea for that one. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll do, have you guys try some of the guided notes. Let's say we had x to the negative 4 over y to the negative 2. Is that a fraction?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fraction. Are there any negative exponents?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, tell me something that has a negative exponent.
X.
All right, so where is that going to go to become positive?
To the bottom.
That's going to go to the bottom. Is there anything else with a negative exponent?
Y.
Okay, the y has a negative exponent. Where is that going to go?
To the top.
Stay.
Well, if it stays, it's going to stay as a
Go to
negative.
the top.
It has to go to the top. So 2 things had to move. Okay. So when we simplify that, what's going to be in the top when we're done?
Y to the power of 2.
Right, it's going to become y to the power of 2. Because it was a y to the negative 2, but it's going to the top. And what's going to be in the bottom?
X to the power of 4.
X to the power of 4. Yep. So sometimes you have to move 2 things. All right? But those were all just one-step problems, different kind of situations you could have with negative exponents. In the top and the bottom, just the bottom, no negative exponent at all, and then just the top. All right. Any questions before we look at some of the guided notes examples?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do a couple together, but I think you'll be able to do some of these on your own. So, directions. Simplify. Use positive exponents. So that means if you leave your answer with a negative exponent on the test, with those directions, it would be wrong. Okay, you cannot use negative exponents. Okay, that says x to the negative 6th. Let me just make that a little sharper. Okay, so I don't think I need to explain much on that one. We kind of went through how to do this type. Can someone tell me the first thing you would do?
Put it after your bottom.
Yeah, we're going to put a 1 in the bottom because we need it to be a fraction. All right, and what's the next thing we do?
You flip it, you put it at the bottom.
Okay, so this x to the negative 6th needs to go to the bottom.
And the 1 will go to the top. Alright, we'll put a 1 on the top.
Yeah, we need to put a 1 in the top because there's nothing left there. Okay, you need a placeholder. So if there's nothing there, you need to just put a 1. Okay, what was already in the bottom?
1.
1. We really don't need to put the 1 in the bottom because we're going to have something else next to it in a second. What's going to be next to it in the bottom?
6.
X to the power of 6.
X to the power of 6. And yes, there is an invisible 1 in front of that x if you want to put it, but you don't need to. So that's 1 over x to the 6th. Okay, any question on that one? Okay, so let's.
Is that 11 or just 1?
That's 1 over x to the 6th.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Why don't you guys try that? That's 4 to the negative 2. Okay, so try 4 to the negative 2. And when you get it, call one of us over and we'll take a look. Okay, so let's look at this one. Seems like everybody did it right. They realized that the 4 to the negative 2 needed to go to the bottom. So we ended up with 1 in the top, and it became 4 squared. And I said you could leave it like that. But if you went one more step and simplified 4 to the second power, what's 4 times 4?
16.
16. So the answer there is 1 over 16. Okay, any question on that? All right, one more thing I do want to show you with a negative. Let's say we had negative x to the negative 3. Okay, is that a fraction?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fraction. Do we have anything with a negative exponent?
Yeah.
Yeah, what has a negative exponent?
The negative x.
The negative x. So this entire thing would go to the bottom. Now, when something goes from the top to the bottom, the only negative that is affected is this one right there. It's the negative on the exponent. No other negatives can change. Okay, so it's only the negative that's up in the exponent. So when we do this, what's going to be left in the top when what I have circled goes to the bottom?
X to the 3rd power.
No, we won't have x to the 3rd left in the top.
Oh, I thought you were thinking about moving down. On top you'll have 5.
Nope.
Right next to the invisible 1.
No, there won't be a 5 in the top. A 1, right? The 5 isn't going anywhere because the 5 doesn't have a negative exponent on it. If the 5 had a negative exponent, then I'd say, okay, it needs to go to the top. But it doesn't have any exponent. So the exponent on the 5 is just a 1. Okay, so we're just going to leave the 5 where it is. There'll be nothing left in the top. So we need to put a 1. What was already in the bottom?
5.
5. That's staying right where it is. And it's going to be 5 times. And what would go next to it if we move what's circled in red to the bottom?
Parentheses,
Mhm.
negative x, and parentheses to the power of 3.
Perfect. That's exactly what would happen. This negative in front is not affected. It's only negatives in the exponent, and that usually trips people up. Okay, but that's exactly what you would get. Any questions on that? Okay, so that's one case I didn't really mention, but something that can come up. All right, let's try. Steps when dividing monomials. I think we already wrote these all down yesterday, so I'm not going to go through all those steps again. Let's just go right to example 3A. I guess I can review them. quick, but you don't have to write them again. So you do the power to a power first. This is the new step we're dealing with today. We're going to move negative exponents so they become positive. We want to get rid of those negative exponents right away. Then we can do all the steps we learned yesterday. So again, we don't have to rewrite all the steps just for that. Okay. Then we reduce our fractions if we can. We simplify things that are on the same level. Then we simplify things that are on different levels. And yeah, I think I really have reduced fractions in here twice. Doesn't need to be written twice. All right, so let's try this one. Okay, so first question that's negative 3, x to the negative 4, y to the 0. Are there any negative exponents?
Yes.
Yes. Is it a fraction?
Yes. No. It is. Oh, it's not.
No. So we have negative exponents and it's not a fraction. Well, that's a problem. It needs to be a fraction because we have to move some stuff. What can I do to make this a fraction?
Put a 100.
Yep. Okay, now I got a spot to put some stuff that needs to move. Okay, let's go through the 3 terms that are in the top. Does negative 3 have a negative exponent?
No.
No, it has a positive exponent. It has a 1 if you want to put it. Does x have a negative exponent?
Yes.
Okay, then that needs to go where?
Down.
It's going to go to the bottom. Does y have a negative exponent?
No.
No. Then that doesn't need to go anywhere. Okay, let's simplify what we have left. What is still going to be in the top after we get rid of this x to the negative 4?
That is 3. Negative 3.
Negative 3 is still in the top. We don't have to write to the first. That's fine.
And then y to the power of 0. Or
Times y to the power of 0. We'll come back to that because we talked about anything to the 0 power. And now you're going to have a 1 because that's what's in the bottom. And what's going to be joining the 1 in the bottom?
x to the power of 4.
When it moves to the bottom, it's going to become positive 4. So x to the 4. Okay. I still see something in the top that we could simplify.
Yeah, the y.
The y to the y.
To the 0.
Okay, what did we say anything to the 0 power is? 1. So that in the top, it's really negative 3 times 1. And in the bottom, it's 1x to the 4th. What's negative 3 times 1?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. And what's 1 times x to the 4th? X to the 4th. Now, do I have any more negative exponents in that problem? What about the negative in front of the 3?
That's fine.
That's fine. That's not a negative exponent. That's a negative number. That's not an exponent. So that's your final answer. Negative 3x to the 4th. So no matter how complicated these problems get, if you just take it one step at a time, apply one rule at a time, the rules will always work to simplify it. Okay, any questions on that one? All right, so how about you guys try? We have a 3A, 3B, and a 3C. Okay. Why don't you guys try this one? So that says 7 to the negative 2, t to the negative 5, and r to the negative 8. Are there any negative exponents there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everything has a negative exponent. So lots of things need to move around here. Okay, so try that one and see if you can simplify it. And then we'll try a couple more after that. Yes?
Is that a 3 or an 8?
That's 7 to the negative 2 t to the negative 5, r to the negative 8. Yep, just saying. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. We already said we have negative exponents. What's something in the top that has a negative exponent? 7. So the 7, along with what's attached to it as an exponent, needs to move where?
Down.
So that's going to go down. What's the exponent on the t?
-5.
That's a negative, so that one needs to go
Down.
down. And in the bottom, what's the exponent on the r?
-8.
So that one needs to go
Up.
up. So everything is moving here. So what do you end up with in the top when you're all done?
R8.
So you get r to the 8th. Okay, what do you end up with in the bottom?
7 to the 2nd.
7 and the 2 becomes a positive,
And then T to the 5th.
and t and the 5 becomes a positive. If they asked you to do out 7 to the 2nd, what's 7 times 7?
49.
So that could become a 49. They didn't specifically say, they just said to simplify with positive exponents. And technically we've done that. Okay. Any question on that? All right, let's look at 3C. This is on the back of your guided notes. Let's do this one together. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify anything that needs to move. What is something that's in the top that has a negative exponent?
-4.
Yes. So this all needs to go to the bottom. Anything else in the top that has a negative exponent?
Y. Y to the
Y. So that needs to go
To the bottom.
to the bottom.
And the 2 could be considered, right?
Well, what's the exponent on the 2? Because there's nothing written there.
No, I meant the 2 on the top.
The 2 on the top. Oh, that's a z. Yeah, that's z to the 0. We'll blame Mr. Roy because he wrote that. That's not my handwriting. No, we won't blame him. So yeah, z to the 0, that's fine because that's not a negative exponent. Is there anything else in the bottom that has a negative exponent?
The X.
Just the x. This 2 is perfectly fine where it is. You cannot move that 2, but you can move this. And where is that going to move?
To the top.
To the top. All right. Okay, so let's see what we have left when we move stuff. First, was there anything that was in the top that stayed in the top?
The Z.
Z to this what?
0.
Okay, so that's going to stay there. Is there anything that needs to be moved to the top?
The S.
And what's that going to become when it goes to the top?
X to the 3rd.
So we got the x to the 3rd. Okay. Now, was there anything that was already in the bottom?
The 2.
The 2. Then put that first. Is there anything else that's coming to the bottom?
The -4.
Yep. -4 to the
2nd.
2nd. Anything else that's coming to the bottom?
Y to the 9th.
Y to the
Oh. 7.
y to the 7th. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything now in the top that we know how to simplify?
The Z.
Z to the,
0.
yeah, what is z to the 0?
1.
1. Anything to the 0 is 1. Okay. 2, let's just leave that for now. -4 squared. What's -4 times -4? 16. And then y to the 7th, we can't really do anything with that. Okay, what's going to be in the top for my final answer?
1 times 6 to the power of 3.
Say that again?
1, and then x to the power of 3.
Yeah, so 1x to the power of 3, so we could just put x to the power of 3. Yep. And what's going to be left in the bottom? It's going to be a number and then y to the 7.
It's gonna be 32 and then y power of 7.
Yep, perfect. And that's
Final answer.
the final answer. Yep. So when you look at your final answer, you should check, do you have the same letter written more than once? If you do, you didn't finish it. Do you have any negatives in the exponents? If you do, then you didn't finish it. But we're good. We don't have x's in more than one spot. We don't have y's in more than one spot. And there are no negative exponents left in that problem. Okay. Any question on that one? All right. So let's look at some of the example 4s. So these are just going to incorporate some more of the rules that we had yesterday. I'll do this one with you guys first, and then I'm going to let you guys try like 4B and maybe 4C. Okay, so that's 2a to the negative 4th power. This is the product to a power. Okay, without me really saying anything, how do you do the product to a power? What do you do first? Thank you.
You put in parentheses the 2a to the negative 4th power, and then a to the negative 4th power. So everything is to the negative 4th power.
2 to the negative 4th power, yep. And what else?
A to the negative 4th power.
Yes. You apply that exponent to each thing on the inside. That's what we did when it was positive. We do the same thing when it's negative. Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Hager, do you have a copy of the notes for the meeting?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so start by applying the negative 4 to each factor inside the parentheses. Now, when we do that, do we have any negative exponents left?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we got negative exponents. That means we need to make this into a what?
Fraction.
Yep, gonna make it into a fraction. I don't have anything in the bottom. I need to put something there. So what can we put temporarily?
1.
Let's put a 1. Okay. What is something in the top that has a negative exponent?
2.
Yep. So the 2 along with its exponent, those things are like glued together. That whole thing is going to go where?
Bottom.
Bottom. Anything else we need to look at?
The A.
Yep, the a has a negative exponent. And that whole thing is going to go
And the bottom.
to the bottom. So what do we have left in the top?
Nothing.
Nothing. So we gotta put something there.
A 1.
Right. We're just gonna put a 1. All right. Now, was there anything that was already in the bottom?
Yeah.
Yes. What?
A 1.
A 1. So we're gonna put the 1. So first we put what was already in the bottom. Then we're gonna put down anything that's gonna be coming to the bottom. What's gonna come down to the bottom?
2 to the power of 4.
It's gonna become 2 to the power of 4. Anything else that's gonna come down to the bottom?
A to the power of 4.
A to the power of 4. So we can simplify this part right there. 1 times 2 to the 4th. What's 2 to the 4th? That's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2.
16.
16. And then what's 16 times 1?
16.
16. So that's a 16. And then what's still next to it?
A to the 4th.
A to the 4th. Perfect. So that's an example of product to a power, except the power was a negative, so we had to fix it after. Okay. Any question on that one? All right. So let's have you guys try 4b and 4c. That's an example of a power to a power. Okay, on both of those. Powers to powers. Okay, and I think there's one more blank box there. We're going to call that one 4D. I'm going to let you guys copy those two down though, because I just need to make up 4D, and we're going to do 4D together. Does everybody have 4B and 4C?
Yep.
No.
So if you can't read it, 4b is 7 squared to the negative 1. And 4c is y to the negative 4th to the 6th. All right, let's look at this one, or these two. So when you have a power raised to another power, what do you do with your exponents? Multiply. So that's going to be 7 to the, what's 2 times negative 1?
Oh wait. -2.
That's 7 to the negative 2. Okay, does that have a negative exponent?
Yeah.
Yes. Then we need to turn this into a
Fraction.
fraction. So we're going to put a 1. And what has a negative exponent on it? The 7. So the 7 with its exponent needs to go to the bottom. What's left in the top? Nothing, so we need to put a 1. Was there anything that was already in the bottom? A 1. Is there anything that's also going to come down to the bottom? 7, and it's going to be to what power? To the second. What's 7 to the second power?
47.
49, and then 49 times 1 is 49. Yep. Okay, and this one, pretty similar. It's y to the negative 4th to the 6th. So we have a power to a power. What do you get when you multiply negative 4 and 6?
Negative 24.
Negative 24. So without me kind of guiding you through it, anyone think they can just tell me what the final answer will be?
1 over y to the power of 24.
Yep. 1 over y to the 24. Okay. For any question, we're not going to do the extra example, but we are going to do 4D. Okay, so we have one more we're going to do. All right, so let's look at this one. First thing we always look for is, do we have multiple x's on the same, or y's on the same level?
Yes.
Yeah, then we need to put those together first. So I'm not going to worry about the 3 and the 6 right now. What in the top can be combined together?
The x negative to the negative 7th power
Yep,
and the x is
right. We can at least take care of not having that. We can put those together. When you multiply two things with the same base, what do you do with your exponents? Add. Okay, so what's negative 7 plus 3?
Positive 4. No, 4. Negative 4.
Negative 4. Yep. What's still in the top that we didn't do anything to yet?
Y 8.
Y to the 8th. What's in the bottom that we didn't do anything with?
6.
The 6, yep. Yeah, everything. Except I kind of want to put the y under the y, and I want to put the x under the x. Okay. Now, is there anything that's negative that's in the top that needs to move? Yeah. What's negative that's in the top that needs to move to the bottom?
The x -4.
Yeah, x to the -4. Is there anything else that needs to move?
No.
No. It's the only thing that's going to move. Okay. What's still going to be left in the top?
3
3. Anything else?
and the y to the 8th power.
Y to the 8th power. Okay. In the bottom, we have a 6. What else is still in the bottom? X. What else is still in the bottom? Y to the 3rd. And is there anything else that's going to be coming down to the bottom?
Yeah.
What?
X to the 4th.
X to the 4th. Now, is there anything in the bottom that can be combined together?
The x's.
The x's again, because now we have them next to each other. What's x to the 1st times x to the 4th? X to the
Oh no, the 5th.
5th. Remember, we add the 1 plus 4 and we get 5. And do we see the same letter more than once?
Yes.
Yeah, what letter still appears more than once?
Y.
So the 3 and the 6 are okay. The x is okay. What do we do when we have the same letter in the top and the bottom? What do we do with the 8 and the 3? Subtract. Where do we have more y's? Top or bottom? Top. So final answer goes in the top. What's 8 minus 3?
5.
5. That was a little tricky. Had lots of rules in it. So tomorrow we'll practice more of these kinds of problems to get ready for the test on Friday. Okay, so remember, reference sheet 6.1 part 3. That's the homework for tonight. And then we'll have a review day tomorrow.